Morata, il destro, bene per Dybala, sinistro, gol!
Lewandowski, Ball rein damit in die Mitte, Schieber mit dem Kopf, Reus, quer, Linie, Tor!
Golazo de Cristiano Ronaldo para el Real Madrid.
Il est passé Lucas, il est passé, il va tenir ce ballon, le remettre dans la... Quel but extraordinaire!
Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast, episode 30 and the final one of our debut season. I am your host Kris and I've got the full crew here with me to see out this season. I have John and I have Tom and I have Drew. Good evening everyone.
Evening.
Sup?
Hello.
Right, we're all here. We're all here to talk about football. As I said before, it's the final games of the season. It's a shame. What we're going to have? Oh, yes, we've got a Euros. More on that later. Right, we're going to kick off as we always do with, hold it though, 2, not 4, Mighty 90s. Okay, so as I said, only the 2 this week. There is very good reason for that. Drew doesn't have a game, because Feyenoord obviously wrapped up their season last week, so we couldn't just have dead air. That would be quite boring. And my game is quite heavily highlighted in the Liga section with Lorient. So I'm just going to give John an opportunity to talk about Gladbach and Tom an opportunity to talk about his beloved Bulls. So, Tom, I'm going to...
That sounded so bad.
It did, didn't it? Tom, I'm going to start by talking about your Bulls.
Right.
So,
You've got 90 seconds off you go.
Yeah, 90 seconds and away they go. Right, your time begins now.
Okay, so even though I'm doing a Mighty 90, it's a bit of a formality because we've already won the league, but we were playing against Wolfsberger this week, and it was a change style as you expect. Stankovic got a bit of an exhibition game in goal. Upamenkana returned from injury and played at centre-back. It's on his second appearance of the season in the league. Keita returned to the side when he would pick up his Player of the Season award, and Soriano remained out the sideline through injury. We got an early chance through Reina, but it wasn't taken. Lazaro then missed another chance, failing to get the desired power on his shot. Lazaro had another effort saved, and again, this has been a bit of a problem for him all season. He's never really stepped up to the plate and taken the chances that he's really been given when he's actually been on the pitch, because he's obviously had problems with injury. It was 0-0 at half-time, and it looked to be a frustrating second half, and Lima sent a shot just wide, but then Lazaro did get a goal with a fine finish, and that was only his second goal of the season. And that's pretty much where it remained. We finished 1-0 at the end of the game. Beating Wolfsburg, as I say, is a formality of a result, as we've already won the league. We picked up the trophy. It was nice to see. A few nice stories in there. I mean, I saw photos on the Salzburg Twitter feed of the athletic director jumping into the stadium recovery pool, which is quite a sight to see. All the players celebrating, jumping around in the pool with the trophy and that. So it's nice to see some celebrations going on. But as I said, it was a bit of a formality of a match and just one of those end of season games you wish to finish.
Happy days, and finish you have. So a title win and everything was all nice and chilled out and relaxed on the final day. Finishing it with a win is always good. Mm-hmm. Right, John, moving over to you then. Let's see if Gladbach did finish with a win. Now they were away from home this weekend, which usually means one thing, or does it? Your Mighty 90 begins now.
You're right, normally it does, but weirdly we actually won a game away from home, which is quite amazing. It's our first win away since match day 11 when we beat I forgot to write this bit down. Hertha Berlin 4-1. There we go. That's why I should have written it down and I wouldn't have paused so long. But it was a 2-0 away win at Darmstadt. We were basically all but guaranteed the Champions League qualifier spot. There was a mathematical possibility that we could lose it, but it would have been a massive goal difference swing needed. So theoretically we needed a point on the day, but 3 points we got. A nice comfortable 2-0 win. Fogg and Hazard got the goal scoring open. Xhaka playing the ball into Hoffman, who hasn't played a lot obviously so far this season, but he dummied the ball really well and just let it run through to Hazard, who rounded the keeper and slotted in. And then the second goal was from Andre Hahn. Nice pinpoint cross from Patrick Herrmann. A really good pick out and a great header by Hahn. It's his 5th in 4 games now. He's got 6 in his last 7, Hahn, so he's been in really, really good form. So yeah, it secures our 4th place on 55 points. So we're in the qualifier for the Champions League next season, which is fantastic news. Now it's just sort of to be seen what's going to happen in the summer, because obviously there's lots of reports about Granit Xhaka leaving. Will someone come in for Dahoud, who's been probably the best player or sort of standout player this season from a young talent perspective? And there's now been links with Norvite leaving as well, so could be a busy summer for Gladbach.
Absolutely. I think I'm right in saying, Drew, I'll check with you. I think the Nortvite deal went through today, did it not? Confirmed?
Yeah, on a free to West Ham.
There you go.
No,
so breaking news. Breaking news.
Breaking news to me, indeed.
Yeah, there you go. Well, in fairness, you've been out working hard and earning your corn, so we can forgive you for that. Even
Enjoying
hipsters.
the joys of an Italian restaurant, I believe.
No,
Yeah,
was
that too.
last night. She wasn't.
Allegedly. And it wasn't with Mina. No, it was very much even hipsters have to work, sadly, but never mind. Right, okay, so that brings an end to our Mighty 90s for this season. We will return next season. Same clubs, I think. I don't see any reason for us to change clubs or loyalties, so we will be keeping our same clubs and going again. Don't forget, if you loyal listeners have a club that you think we should follow as a collective, it might be something we might consider next season. So maybe we'll adopt a club in a very obscure league, and between us we'll all desperately try to follow them and see how it gets on. You wait, somebody will write in now from the Faroe Islands or somewhere like that saying, please could you follow my team, Flurblajurb? And we'll be like, yeah, no. Still, we'll see what happens on that one. Let's move on then, and we'll take our final trip into some stats, the murky world of stats, and it's the world of football. Okay then, so let's have a look and see what has been going on in and around the European leagues this week, the Big Five. As usual, we'll start off with the weekly roundup, and then we'll do a seasonal roundup of some stats, some interesting reading there. So, Premier League's final day. Now, obviously, this is excluding Bournemouth-Manchester United, which has still got to be played because of the events covered on the English Breakfast Pod, which we'll mention later on. But to date, there were 31 goals, there were 2 clean sheets, there was 1 red card, there were 5 home wins, none away, and that's from the 9 games. In Liga in France, 29 goals on the final day, woof, 5 clean sheets, no red cards, amazingly, 5 home wins, 4 away from the 10 played. In La Liga, 32 goals, 5 clean sheets, 4 red cards, 7 home wins, 3 away from the 10 played. In Serie A, again, 10 games, 37 goals. John, what went on? Mental. 3 clean sheets, 6 red cards. Love it. 5 home wins, 4 away. And finally in Germany on the final day, 29 goals from the 9 games, 3 clean sheets, 1 red card, 4 home wins, and 3 away. So that's a total for the final week of 158 goals, my goodness, 18 clean sheets, 12 red cards, half of them in Italy, love that, 26 home wins, 14 away wins from the 48 played. Now, just to run through, we touch on a couple of individual stats throughout the week, so I thought I'd kind of just pick out the final top dogs as far as the stats go. So, total goals this season. Anyone want to venture who's come out on top on that one?
Portugal.
We don't even cover Portugal, John, for goodness sake. It's not far away, though, because Spain has come out on top on that one. 1,043 goals in La Liga this season. The Premier League was just behind, 1,022. So close one there. Goals per game ratio. The Bundesliga's top of that one, 2.83. Clean sheets, Liga, 162 this season, just 1 ahead of Spain. That one's a close one, that. Clean sheets per game, Liga as well. And again, as you'd expect, just 1 point clear or 0.1 point ahead of La Liga, 0.43. Home wins, La Liga takes that 183 home wins there. Away wins, Premier League is top, 116. Draws, 108, Liga, could have seen that one coming. Home wins percentage, that one goes to Spain as well, 48%. Bundesliga has the highest amount of away wins percentage-wise. Draws, it's a dead heat between Liga and the Premier League as far as draws percentages go, 28% of the games drawn. 0-0 draws, you won't be surprised to hear that's in France, 33. Although, interestingly, only 1 clear in the Premier League and only 2 clear of Italy, 32 and 31 respectively. 0.09 highest average of draws, again, obviously Liga. Red cards, you knew it was coming, John, didn't you? 126 in Italy.
Proper defenders.
Yeah. Do you know the closest is Liga with 117? So there's a clear 9 more red cards. The lowest, actually, incidentally, is the Bundesliga, only 40. And I think maybe our Hipsters Choice was responsible for about 10 of those. More on that later. Red cards per game, again, obviously Italy, top of the charts. They're 0.33% red cards per game. Most goals in the game, La Liga comes top of that one, 12 most goals in the game on average. And highest game differential, 9. Is going, so that's a plus minus goal difference or differential that goes to France as well, just ahead of Spain. So there's a couple of stats for you. It's all interesting stuff, and that brings to an end a season of stats. So our thanks to Kelly as usual for compiling those for us, and we will continue that into next season. If there's any particular stats again that you really want to hear from us to delve into, give us a tweet and we'll see what we can do. No promises, of course, but we'll see what we can do. Right, so we will leave the stats behind then for the summer and for the season, and let's move on to our whip around the leagues. And we're going to start this week with Tom, and we're going to start in Spain for La Liga. Right then, Tom. Let's delve into the murky world of La Liga. Now, you want to
murky?
Well, the reason I said murky is I want to start at the bottom.
Oh, you start at the bottom, okay.
Said the vicar to the schoolboy. Yeah, I was tempted to start at the top, but the bottom was kind of fun, and we can build up to who won the league then, you see. So let's start with, let's do a combo meal, shall we? Sporting Gijón and Rayo Vallecano. Now, am I right in saying that one of the two, it was kind of 1 from 2 as to who could survive? So do you want to sort of cover those? 1 from 3, indeed. Yes, you're absolutely right. Do you want to cover those 2 games as a package, and then we'll cover the others after?
Yep, that's fine. So I'll start with Rayo then, because they were the one who were worse off at the start of the day in 19th place, and they won 3-1 against already relegated Levante. A pretty just a normal result as you'd expect, considering Levante already down and Rayo with the desperately needing the points. Pablo Hernandez, the ex-Swansea and Valencia winger, got a great goal. Trashura scored and Fedor got the other goal with the goals that Rayo got, and then the goal for Levante was scored on a penalty by Verza. So that meant, depending on result on Getafe and Sporting, they had given themselves the best position at the end of that. In terms of the Sporting game, a small story before I go into it is there was a scarf put up I saw in the crowd, one of the fans, the game I watched, and it was a scarf which, you're going to love this, it was a half and half scarf, but it was a bit different to normal. It was, one side had Sporting on it and the other side had Betis on it with a handshake in the middle, because what the deal is that Betis and Sporting have quite a history of liking each other, which is an odd thing to see in sport, 2 teams like that. And obviously Betis were playing at home to Getafe, and if Getafe lost or dropped points and Sporting won, Sporting would stay up. So obviously someone really going to try and get that across, but it started off really well for Sporting. Johnny put Sporting 1 up in 8 minutes, scoring a fantastic volley off Carmona's cross. Really is one to go watch. Leo Baptistao then hit the post for Villarreal, them trying to spoil the party. Halilovic, who's on loan from Barcelona, who's had a really excellent season, probably would make it my young 11 of the season, had an effort blocked off the line. And then Sanabria, another player who I've really thought had been impressive in terms of one of the youngsters on loan from Roma, laid off Sergio Alvarez on the edge of the box, and the Spaniard smashed in a shot just off the bar to make it 2 and really seal it. So that meant if Getafe dropped points, Sporting would be staying up.
And that transitions rather nicely into Getafe, who had a basically win or bust away at Betis, and it turned out to be bust.
It did. That scarf certainly worked. But no, Betis went to the game. Definitely the team that you could see winning, and Getafe in good form. But it started off as a pretty, as you'd expect, Getafe were on the attack quite a lot, but Betis had a few chances, and they took the lead in the second half. Yaquin, who's a real name for blast from the past, his free kick found the head of Petzela, and that made it 1-0. And then Jorge Molina, the striker, who's been a bit of a veteran next to Ruben Castro, doesn't get in the limelight, was subbed off in his last game for Betis after 6 years, scoring something like 66 goals in 180 matches, which is quite impressive when you think about it. But the game went on, and Masunda, the on-loan Chelsea midfielder, was brought down in the box. And Ruben Castro, of all people you'd expect to have to score in his last game of the season, and he certainly did, and that made it 2-0. At that point, you think Getafe are definitely doomed. But then Medrin got them back into the game with an absolutely stunning strike, running from the right-hand side to the left and smashing a cross-hit shot into the top right-hand corner. But then just before that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in football. Obviously, the 2-0 at that point had got to the Getafe players' heads, and Buendia, who'd just been subbed on, booted Ceballos, just absolutely swiped at him and got a straight red card. And that just summed up pretty much Getafe's feelings of the day, and so that meant Sporting have stayed up, which is I'm happy about, because I think they're a much better team at playing football. I like Rayo because they're just all out attack, and their manager Paco Gema has done a great job, and he's being linked with the Valencia job for the summer. But Sporting, with the stadium and their fans, I'm glad they're the ones that are staying up.
And stay up they shall. Now, that kind of covers the bottom then, because we knew obviously Levante had already gone. So the sort of talk then turned to the top of the table, where we knew it was a two-horse race. We knew that if both won, Barcelona would end up champions. So we'll touch on them in a second. First of all, we'll look at Real Madrid, who faced a tougher-looking game away at Deportivo. Did they do their bit at least?
They did indeed. They got off to the mark of a flying start, and it was only really one man that was going to score on this day, desperate to try and claw some goals back in the top scorer chase, obviously trying to catch Suarez at the start of the day. He was 5 off of him. And Bale ran down the left, played it to Benzema, and Benzema, it looked like a pass, but I think he scuffed a shot, if I'm honest. And it landed at Ronaldo's feet, and he finished quite easily. His second goal of the game came from a Kris corner, and his header deflected off Bergantiños and went in. That made it 2-0. He could have had a hat-trick in the first half. I mean, he hit the post, and then he hit the bar from a long-range effort. And in the second half, Depor had a few chances, but ultimately surrendered to a 2-0 loss, which I think Deportivo will just be happy that they survived this season after their massive drop in form.
Yeah, safety for them, and good job. Now, so that meant Barcelona basically knew what they had to do: go to Granada, win, whatever the score, just win. And Luis Suarez was, I think I'm right in saying he was on for a record. So was it quite fitting that he was indeed the match winner, and obviously Barcelona were the title winners?
Yes, Suarez has been an excellent player all season. We know his qualities. We saw him at Liverpool, and he's been scoring completely different goals at Barcelona did at Liverpool, because I mean, Liverpool didn't have the quality to get into that position where it gives Suarez an open goal, and he got that twice in this game. Jordi Alba running down the left-hand side and getting a cross in for Suarez to just tap in an open net, and they're the type of chances he's been feeding off all season, because he's the perfect player who knows the right positions to get into, and he did it brilliantly. His second goal came from a different type of goal. It was the other fullback this time making a cross. Mascherano's whacked a long ball to Dani Alves, and Dani Alves just kept it in and played a near post cross, which Suarez headed in excellently, making an absolute fool of the Granada keeper. And then the second half came round. Barca was pretty much on top the whole game. Granada did have a few chances, including hit the post, but at the end, it was the MSN that really summed up their season. Messi laid through Neymar, and Neymar laid off Suarez for his hat-trick, and that made it 3, and that was that, and it's Barca's 24th title, and Messi has 8 of those, so Messi has a third of all the Barcelona La Liga titles. Quite incredible.
That is quite a record, and I kind of don't envy any striker that Barcelona might go after, because they're just not going to play ever. So it seems like a bit of a pointless move if they go after him.
I hope Soriano doesn't end up there.
Yeah, and probably why Nolito didn't go in the end, I would guess. So that's the title sewn up then. In the end, it sort of, I wouldn't say petered out, but in the end, I was really hoping for, like, I don't know, Barcelona to go behind or something to make it exciting, but it didn't. It wasn't to be. But hey ho, never mind. We should salute Barca nevertheless. On the final day, then, what else happened? What else went down score-wise?
Yeah, it was actually quite a fun day of other games. It wasn't your typical end of season. Well, we say that, but I'm sure you're covering the English breakfast, the mad games that went on the last day in England. But no, in Spain it was quite good. Valencia ended their season in traditional form with a loss at home to Sociedad. The youngster Oyarzabal, who our good friend Simon's been asking me about because he's being linked with Barcelona now. The youngster who scored a 90th minute winner for the San Sebastian side. And then a mad game took place in Bilbao where Athletic came away with a 3-1 home win to Sevilla. Adariz had a double with Raul Garcia getting their third. Munoz scored for Sevilla, but there were 3 red cards in the match. Mikel Rico for Bilbao in the 90th minute got one, and Koke and, I want to get his name right, Kola Zizek for Sevilla, young French centre-back, got sent off for them. So that's confirmed Sevilla did not win an away win in the league all season, which is quite incredible for a team of their size. Atletico finished well with the Champions League coming up, a 2-0 home win against Vigo. Torres and Griezmann with the goals. Malaga sealed eighth spot with a 4-1 win against Las Palmas. Charles brace, a chop finish, and a final appearance for the season of Atsu saw him get a goal before he returns to Chelsea. Villian got the goal for Las Palmas in that game, so that finished 4-1, as I said. And then Espanyol, my boys, finished the season absolutely brilliantly, and it's quite ironic. I was joking to Drew that I put up a photo of Asensio and Gerard Moreno standing looking out over the Espanyol crowd, and they both got a brace in the last game, and I put this up before the game, so I think next season my cover photo is going to be Alexis Sanchez-Nerzel, because I think we need that superstition in the side. But yeah, they both got braces, and it's nice to see Asensio get 2 goals before he returns to Madrid after an absolutely excellent loan spell. I couldn't speak more highly of the player. They were playing Eibar, and Eibar got 2 goals, and it finished 4-2. Baston and Enrique, the 2 strikers who have done really well this season. Baston goes back to Atletico Madrid with, I think, 18 league goals for the youngster, which is quite impressive, especially going to a team like Eibar with not getting the best of service. So I think that they'll count it, even though they dropped off towards the end of the season, a quite successful one.
He'll go back to Atletico Madrid just in time for them to sell Griezmann to Chelsea then, so that'll be something to look forward to. Ugh, there's a thought. Right, so before we leave Spain, 2 other bits of business. Do you want to give us the final table, and also let our listeners know, because we know obviously who's going to go down, who is coming up from Segunda Division?
Yes, I will do that as fast as my phone opens to remind me. But yeah, I'll give you the table. So the top 6 is there wasn't any changes other than from 5th and 6th. Barcelona obviously finished as champions, top of the league on 91 points. Then we have Real Madrid on 90 points. Atletico on 88. Villarreal way down, 24-point gap to 64. Bilbao on 62 and Celta Vigo on 60. So Bilbao overtook Celta on the last day. Excuse me. Down at the bottom, 20th, Levante relegated 32, Getafe relegated 36, and Rayo relegated 38. Sporting survived, thankfully, 39 points, not that I'm biased whatsoever. And Granada also on 39 points after their loss against Barcelona. In terms of what we look at who's coming up in the Segunda Division, Deportivo Alaves came top of the league, 65 points. Leganes also in the second spot, who lost top spot on the last day, it looks like, 65 points. And then we have playoffs in the Segunda Division. Gymnastic, Real Zaragoza, Real Oviedo and Osasuna are in the playoffs. I will give details on when those matches go ahead when we come around to the next podcast and update who has taken the 3rd spot.
Superb. Thank you very much. No Mallorca coming up, I see. Boo.
No.
Never mind. Okay.
I just avoided relegation, actually. So
yeah, I know. They were. It just caps off one of my other teams having a terrible season. Less said the better. Okay, super. Right, well, that wraps up Spain then. As I say, we've obviously got 2 European finals with Spanish teams involved, so season's not completely done in Spain yet, but nevertheless, Barcelona are the champions, and on we shall move. So let's change gears now and find out what happened on the final day in Germany, because there was a lot going on in Germany. So, Drew, we will come across to you and see what happened in the Bundesliga. Okay then, Drew. So we head into the Bundesliga this weekend, or the final weekend, knowing that there was quite a cluster at the bottom. Eintracht Frankfurt and Stuttgart were sort of battling for survival, as were Werder Bremen and Hoffenheim and lots of clubs. Now let's where should we start? Let's start with Werder, shall we? Because they were in the key game against Frankfurt. So, how did it end up, and what are the results of how it ended up?
Well, I'll give the results first. I guess what needed to be done first, rather. Bremen came into the match. They needed a win, pure and simple. Eintracht Frankfurt was on 36 points, one spot ahead of Werder Bremen, who were sitting 16th on a day, 1 point behind them, and they needed a win. So Werder Bremen were at home. They ended up an 88th minute winner from Papa Boji, and that's all they really. That was the match. And due to that, now they not only avoid relegation, but they also avoided the relegation playoff, which now Eintracht Frankfurt find themselves in. And that's going to be against the Red Bull Leipzig, which I know Tom will appreciate. But yeah, it was. Exactly. It was. I don't know. I think on the day Niko Kovac got his tactics wrong. I know Eintracht really only needed to just not lose, but they didn't really set up to give themselves a chance either. He went with his usual 4-2-3-1, but they just didn't create much of any way of chances. And Bremen, honestly, if they didn't win, I think they would have been a little hard done. They created enough of the chances. And unfortunately they needed their center back to convert the one they really needed, but they got the 3 points that were necessary. And I think if Eintracht go down, I think Niko Kovac does have to be a little bit to blame, because on an important match like that, away from home, I mean, you do have to keep shape and be consolidated and put a good performance. But when you don't even look as if you're trying to go out and win in such an important match, I think it speaks a little bit of maybe what you deserve. So.
Yeah, quite negative. I watched that, and you did get the impression with about 25 minutes to go, they were just content to sit in and hope for the best. And then obviously that Gilavogi goal. Although I think has it been given to Anthony Ujah, because he definitely got the touch, and then Gilavogi.
I still think it's Gilavogi.
Yeah,
honestly.
He got the touch in on the line, didn't he? Essentially. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll give it to Pappy. He made team of the week, by the way, so God bless him. It's ironic that a Chelsea player keeps Werder Bremen up, but never mind. Chelsea player that never played for Chelsea, I should stress. Now, that sorted that out then, and God bless Alex Meyer. Hopefully he'll be fit for the playoffs, and it will all be fine. So it's all fine, people. Let's come up the table then. Now, again, it's kind of a 2-in-1 roundup here, because we had a complicated situation between Schalke and Mainz as to who was going to get that Europa League spot.
It was Schalke, Mainz, Hertha as well, yeah.
Yeah, so a 3-way tie. So Mainz and Hertha, and obviously not a lot happening in that game. But if you want to combine that with Hoffenheim and Schalke, go for gold, because they were the two key games there.
Mainz and Hertha went in on 49 points apiece in the last day, but Mainz has the better goal difference, so Mainz just had to not lose. A draw was fine. A win obviously would have been better. And then coupled with, Schalke needed a performance. Schalke also, they needed to go out and get 3 points. A draw would have only seen them actually on 50 points. So there would have been a 3-way tie on 50 points if they didn't go out and win, and actually end up spanking Hoffenheim at home. On the road, rather, than they ended up winning 4-1. Klaas and Huntelaar opened scoring on 7 minutes, and then Eric promoting double the lead on 14. Mark Uth got one back just before halftime, but early in the second half, Lever signed him in at 3-1, and then Fabian Schär own goal in the 89th minute sealed the victory for Alex Breitenreider's men. So Andre Breitenreider's men, sorry. And so they did their business, and then Mainz held on. A 0-0 draw at home against visiting Hertha. So because that Hertha actually missed out on Europe after their very, very good first 1.5, I guess, parts of the season. Their run in form in the last maybe 10 matches just wasn't the form you'd see from someone who had realistic expectations of challenging for Europe, and they really started, even in their last 6, they didn't get a win at all, and they lost 4 straight up until the final day of the season. So it's unfortunate for them that they missed out, but Schalke wanted they have more quality than Hertha, so they would feel hard if they weren't in Europe, and Mainz go and pull an Augsburg, I guess you could say, from last year and do something special. Now they see themselves in Europa League next season.
Superb and vital for them, I have to say. Now, seeing as we're sort of pushed for time in all of our roundup staves, there's so much to get through. I've kind of kiboshed the news section, but let's just scramble in with Schalke, because am I right in saying the Brighton writer reign has officially ended?
Yeah, he won't be there next season. So.
And has there been confirmation of is it Weinzel who's going to come in, or has that not come out yet?
I'm not quite sure. I know that there's rumors with him. I know there's been a couple of rumors with a couple of managers, but I think Weinzel's going to be the one that they actually truly want. What he's done with Augsburg last season and how well they showed in Europe. Just the way the Augsburg team plays, just such a lack of quality throughout the sides, but the way he organizes is something that Schalke desperately needed. So I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be him. You guys can check if he did get confirmed, but I don't think it happened yet, but I think it's going to.
Yeah, nothing at the time of recording, but it could change. It's like sackings in Italy; they could happen at any point. More on that later. Right, so let's go on to the other game that we wanted to highlight then, and this was Wolfsburg. Now, fresh off the back of, I read this week signing a multi-million-pound Nike kit deal. They sure could do with some money after the problems that Volkswagen are running into.
Yeah.
But they had a final game of the season against Stuttgart, which Stuttgart knew they had to win, otherwise they were down, and they didn't win. Wolfsburg did, so they are down. So. Give us your thoughts on Stuttgart, and maybe just touch on Wolfsburg and what they need to do to be a force again next season as well.
I guess I'll tackle Stuttgart first. They started so well, in the second half of the season. It's just, but it seems like the problems that they had, that they seem to have resolved, they came right back. And they're running to the final day. They lost at home to Bayern, which is expected. They couldn't find a goal against Augsburg. They lost at home to Borussia Dortmund. They gave up 6 to Werder Bremen. Then they lost at home again to Mainz, and then on the final day, they traveled to Wolfsburg and didn't get a win. So they just. I don't even know it. Whatever they were doing before, they switched the style a little bit. They put faith in the right players in the right positions. They tightened things up at the back. All those things sort of just dried up, and it didn't get enough of a response quick enough. They scored 50 goals, which, if you look at it, that's more than Mainz, that's more than Hertha, that's more than Wolfsburg. Teams that. You'd expect to maybe score more than someone who's sitting 17th at the table, but the problem is they allowed 75 goals, which is absolutely awful. If you subtract even just maybe 10 of those, like Werder, who also scored 50, but only allowed 65, they're safe from relegation. So they just couldn't stop the leaking at the back. They stopped it for a time in the second half of the season, when they switched things up, but the problem just arose right again. And I don't know if it's a lack of quality or if it's just a lack of, on the understanding on the pitch and whatever have you. But, it sucks to see them go down because they do have a lot of quality players. And I think, personally, I think they're going to have to sell quite a few of them. I don't expect David to be there next season. I think Philip Kostic, especially if he has how he shows. I think he's in the Euros. Players like that. Timo Werner is very highly thought of in Germany, both at club level and at youth level for Germany. So he might not be there either. So I don't know if they'll just jump right back up next season. The Bundesliga 2 is. It's difficult. It's kind of similar to the championship, where there's so many teams where things are on a level playing field, and Stuttgart will lose a lot of money for not being at that top level. So, but in regards to Wolfsburg, it was a much better performance from them. This season was the exact opposite that we saw from last season. They had that's such a good club season last year. They finished second. But. And then they got rid of Kevin De Bruyne, and then everything sort of toppled. Julian Draxler came in, and he did his best, but they weren't getting the best out of players, like Andre Schürrle and Dana Kanaguri and Max Arnold, players like that. But this Bas Dost went down with an injury, and that really sort of railroaded them for a little bit because Max Kruse couldn't pick up the slack. But this was a much better performance against Stuttgart, this is the type of performance that you'd see from them last season. Very, very good going forward. The wingers were very both threats in front of goal, but also providing. they were very short at the back for once. Gilavogi played a very prominent role in center midfield, swooping up, and they did that transitional 4-1-4-1 into a 4-3-3. And it begs the question, why couldn't they be doing that all season long? Even without Kevin De Bruyne, I think they have the quality to be a much better side than that they showed this season. But in the summer, for me, I'm not quite sure. Bastos and Max Fusa are usually good finishers, but maybe they can get a bit of a better striker. Maybe they need another really good sort of tempo provider in center midfield. Maybe another someone with steel as well. But I think hopefully for them, they'll improve next season. I would expect them to be back in Europe. Probably not Champions League, but I'd expect them to be back in Europa League at least. But they don't have to do too much. They just need to be consistent once again.
Yeah, lots of comings and goings, methinks there. And as for Stuttgart, I think you're absolutely right. I think it was that game, that 6-2, that really killed any confidence they had remaining, because that game was must win, and they didn't win it, and they spectacularly cocked it up. Still, never mind. Now, we knew Bayern Munich were champions, so that was all sorted. But how did the final table finish up? Who went down? And maybe just touch on the clubs coming up from the Bundesliga.
Sure. Well, like you said, Bayern and champions, 10 points clear of Dortmund, who were in second. Bayer Leverkusen ended up third on 60 points. Gladbach, as John will be happy about, ended up in the final Champions League spot, fourth on 55 points. Schalke and Mainz get the Europa League spots, fifth and sixth respectively, on 52 and 50 points. Hanover and Stuttgart are the ones who are guaranteed to go down, and Eintracht Frankfurt has the relegation playoff. They'll be playing SC Nuremberg, and SC Freiburg and Red Bull Leipzig are the two that are guaranteed promotion next season. So it's going to be pretty interesting, and I wouldn't put it past Nuremberg to actually beat Eintracht Frankfurt. They're actually a very good attacking side. They had the second best offense goals for in Bundesliga this season, so it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and RB Leipzig getting a lot of stick, but they're just making use of what they've got, and they are a long established club before all this Red Bull stuff comes in. People forget that, so be interesting to see how they do now they are finally coming up. And yes, obviously I'm biased, but I'd rather see Frankfurt stay up because of Meyer. And just to compound the misery for me, Paderborn back-to-back relegations, so I don't know how to pick teams. Anyway, moving on very quickly before I get depressed. Right, so you'll be obviously keeping us in touch with all the bits and bobs over the summer with Germany and whatnot. So we'll be back to you for that, of course. But that's where we leave Germany for another season. Sad times. What are we going to do without this football? It sucks. Never mind. Right, let's move on then to another league. And John, I'm going to come over to you and see what's happened in Italy, because there was a couple of bits and bobs still unresolved. And it's this week's Serie A. Right then, John. So let's start with, let's change it up, because we've started at the bottom with the last two leagues. Let's start kind of further up and work our way down. So Napoli, I'll just let you explain. Essentially, they had to win, didn't they, to guarantee their Champions League spots. So how did they do, and how many did Higuain get this week?
Yeah, Napoli and Roma were basically having a straight shootout for who would get the last automatic spot for the Champions League, and who would have to suffer the indignity of the qualifier spot, which is some teams have to go through it. But they played at the same time, but basically Napoli knew if they won, then they were guaranteed it, as they were second in the league, and they did very comfortably, 4-0 at home to Frosinone. It looked an easy game, and to be honest, it really was, partly helped by the fact that Frosinone were down to 10 men quite early on. Mirko Guri was booked for a foul on Insigne, just going to get a yellow card, but then said something rather rude to the referee, it would appear, and the ref didn't like it, gave him a second yellow, and he walked straight away. So that was all in the first half. There was some nerves around the stadium, because Roma in their game had already taken the lead, and Napoli was still 0-0. And they didn't get their first goal until just before half-time. Marek Hamsik tapping in as two Frosinone defenders scrambled quickly to swarm around Higuain so he couldn't get anywhere near the ball, and it just fell to Hamsik for a nice tap-in. But yeah, second half, it was all about breaking records. Napoli were totally comfortable in the game. First goal for Gonzalo, just a nice pullback from Alan on the byline, easy finish, and then Hija put in a perfect ball just behind the Frosinone defence. Hint of maybe offside, but Pepito got there first, and that was it. He'd equalled the record set by Gunnar Nordahl in the 1949-1950 season for Milan. That's 35 league goals, but he wasn't finished there. He broke the record with probably his goal of the season. Probably one of the goals of the season in Serie A. If you haven't seen it, it really is just worth looking up. He's already broken the record. Napoli know they've got second place. Everyone in the stadium's cheering. It's fantastic. And then the ball just pops up to him. He chests it up in the air with his back to goal on the edge of the 18-yard box and just goes, you know what, I could probably just volley this in, bicycle kick, without even looking at where the goal is, and does exactly that. Just amazing way to beat the record. 36 league goals this season, a brand new record set. For a record that's been standing for over 60 years. Just amazing. Great, really great scenes celebrating the whole team, the kit man, everyone just on the pitch. The game hadn't even finished. The stadium just going absolutely mental. Disappointing for Roma, obviously, but we'll get to the game in a minute. But yeah, just amazing. Exactly the result Napoli needed, and perfect way for Higuain to finish the season.
It's funny what confidence does, isn't it? When you're in a rich vein of scoring form, you just think, "I'll just hit this," and they tend to go in. So as you say, let's touch on Roma then, because they went to the San Siro to play AC Milan, who I'm a big fan of their new kit. I know it's sacrilege saying that as an Inter fan, but I do like the black back of the kit now. I'm quite a fan. I know not many people are, but nevertheless, Roma travelled to Milan and came away with a pretty impressive victory. So they did their part as well, even if it was kind of in vain.
Yeah, they obviously both games were on at the same time, and Roma just knew that they had to go win and hoped that Frosinone could do them a favour. And it was pretty comfortable. Roma winning 3-1 in the end to abject Milan, who have been fairly poor this season, to be honest. First easy goal for Mo Salah, just a simple Strootman ball over the top of the defence. The Milan defence completely sleeping. Alex playing him on side, and if you give Salah room to run into, he's going to exploit it all day. Nice simple left foot finish curled around Donnarumma. Second goal didn't come until the second half, but Roma had so many chances that they wasted in the game, to be honest. El Shaarawy got the second goal. The ball from Miralem Pjanic in this is absolutely ridiculous. He just picks it up, and there's about 7 players basically between Pjanic and the edge of the 18-yard box in a decent line, still moving but aware and not too static. And Shaarawy just sort of walks through, and Pjanic goes, I reckon if I just lob this over like all 8 players, about 12 yards at this exact angle, that should fall directly onto, El Shaarawy's foot for a tap-in. Just unbelievable ball. Why lots of teams will be looking at buying Miralem Pjanic this summer. Be interested to see where he stays. Emerson came on and got the third for Roma. Came from a nice tap-in from a save shot from Mo Salah. Totti again involved in this one, though. Nice little back heel in the build-up in the box. Milan did get one back late on. Carlos Bacca, bit of a consolation. It's got to be said, if it wasn't for Gigi Donnarumma, then Milan would have conceded a lot more goals. So, yeah, Roma would be disappointed that they couldn't nick second spot, but they did get third in the end. And after the start of the season they had, it's a great turnaround. The whole problems with the fans at the stadium that they've had for the Curva Nord and Curva Sud being closed off, and basically the Ultras not going, the problems with Totti and then Spalletti coming in. Looks like it's all sort of finished nicely on a decent note, and Totti has now been offered a new 1-year deal as a player at the club. So we're still waiting to see whether he accepts it. Hopefully he does, but they basically said you can stay as a player. If not, you can come in as a coach or an ambassador or basically whatever position you want. So it's all there on the table for him.
Happy days. See, it's always nice to end on a happy note, isn't it? And speaking of ending on a happy note, that will take us to our next game, which is Udinese and Carpi. Now, again, you can kind of combine these two reviews of games into one, if you like, because Udinese were safe, just about, but they had a certain gentleman who was kind of signing off, and Carpi knew that they had to win at Udinese to potentially stay up, but their result would very much depend on how Palermo got on at home to already relegated Hellas Verona. So, as a pair, how did these end up, and who was the gentleman saying goodbye?
Yeah, the Palermo playing Verona and Udinese Carpi, it was basically, again, a straight shootout. Carpi needed to stay up, and so same with Palermo. They're on the same points, goal difference. I think before the game I think it was only 2 goals, so even goals scored was really going to count in it. But in the end, it was Palermo who stayed up. It really did go back and forth, though, with the results, because in the Carpi game, Carpi took the lead quite early on. They got a somewhat dubious penalty, but Simone Verde stepped up, really cool, calm penalty, got the first. Udinese then went down to 10 men. As you said, lots of red cards on the last day in Serie A. And Carpi immediately got a second goal. This time, Verdi just ran rings about 5 players. Absolutely amazing. Really, really good goal. Beat 2 players, beat another man in the box, and then sat the goalkeeper and the defender down. A really good finish. Palermo, meanwhile, during their game, went a goal up. Vasquez with the goal, Dybala's old friend. Then both teams also went down to 10 men, having a man sent off at the same time. Morganella, it looked like he elbowed Wojlek, and he then reacted. There was some slaps and sort of handbags thrown back at each other, so the ref had enough and sent both players off. But Palermo just kept leaving space for Verona in, who, let's be honest, they're relegated. Luca Toni wasn't even playing. They didn't have anything to play for, but they just wouldn't let Palermo, have the game easily, and they let them get back into it. Verona getting a goal back, Viviani with the equaliser. Palermo then went to a 3-1 lead. Maresca scoring from a really weird situation. Rispoli with a throw-in, and Maresca just sort of waltzed through 2 defenders and kind of just got a looping header over the goalkeeper. Really, really bizarre. Gilardino then scored the third for Palermo. He's 188th in Serie A goal, so quite a record for him as well. Then Pisano scored for Verona, making it 3-2. Palermo then got very, very nervous. Then back in the Carpi Udinese game, just as Di Natale, who was making his last appearance for Udinese, literally a minute after he come on, Vidma was brought down in the box for Udinese, and they got a penalty, which of course Di Natale, just having walked on the pitch, stepped up and put it in the back of the net, scoring his last goal for Udinese. Really, really nice moment. Palermo then cheering on Udinese. Carpi obviously always worrying and cheering on Verona at the same time, but in the end the results finished as they were. So sadly Carpi went down. Palermo, unbelievable after the ridiculous season they've had with God knows how many managers, managed to stay up. And yeah, Toto Di Natale, another player not leaving Serie A necessarily, just leaving Udinese, but a player who's signing off for a very long career, scores a penalty, exactly the same as Luca Toni the week before. And there was another player actually in Serie A this week who also did the same for a different team.
Was that Miroslav Klose by
That
any
was
chance?
indeed Miroslav Klose, yes.
Yeah, that's lovely. It does feel like the end of an era. We'll touch on it in France with another one that's moving on, but it does feel like the end of an era for so many teams, so many players at the end of the season. It's weird.
Yeah, so
Really weird.
Di Natale still wants to play in Italy. He just won't be at Udinese. I think it's something like 228 goals, something like that for Udinese. It's over 300 goals in his career. It's just ridiculous.
What a lovely man. What a great smile as well. Okay, so that draws to a close. As I say, we haven't really got time for news, but there was a sacking, so we should just mention that before we go through the other results quickly.
Yes, the Frosinone manager, Roberto Stelloni, is no longer the Frosinone coach. Not necessarily a sacking, but more of a sort of a mutual agreement departure type job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And what were the final day results and indeed the table, and then we'll try our best to work out about Serie B, shall we?
Yeah. So the other games, Chievo Bologna was a 0-0. Empoli won 2-1 at home to Torino. Genoa lost 2-1 at home to Atalanta. Juventus, their last game at home, just the 5 goals against Sampdoria. Oh, by the way, Dybala also equalled Carlos Tevez' first season for Juventus as well. Not bad for a kid who's only 21. Lazio sadly did lose at home to 4-2 to Fiorentina. Excuse me, but as I said, Miroslav Klose did score also from a penalty spot, same as Luca Toni, same as Di Natale on his last game. He will not be in Serie A next season, so maybe MLS may be expected to turn up there. Sassuolo did exactly what they needed to do, which was beat Inter, and they did 3-1. So they have a chance of being in Europe next season. They need Juventus to beat Milan in the Coppa Italia final. So the table as it stands, Juventus champions, Napoli second, Roma third. So they are your two other teams for the Champions League spots. Inter, Fiorentina and Sas will be in Europe if, as I say, Juventus win the Coppa Italia final and denied Milan a place. And your three teams going down is Verona, Frosinone and Carpi.
Gone. I feel sorry for Carpi. It kind of sucks, but I guess in the grand scheme of the league, it maybe was just a jump too far for those smaller sides. But nevertheless, it was fun. So Serie B, it's a bit confusing. So maybe we'll just say who's coming up, and then you can just say who's potentially coming up out of what is it, 8 different teams?
Yeah, it's more confusing than the coefficient thing. Right, anyway, there's still one round of games to go in Serie B, but Cagliari and Crotone are definitely promoted. It's just as to which one of those will be champions. There are only a point between them. And then it will be anyone from Pescara, Trapani, Bari, Cesena, Spezia, and Virtus Entella, who I must admit I hadn't heard of before. Any one of those will be the third team to come up. There was one other little bit of news. Antonio Conte has been acquitted of his sporting fraud charges, so he hasn't got that hanging over his head during the Euros or when he goes to Chelsea. And Italy said that they will announce who their new coach will be once Conte leaves. For when Conte leaves, but they're going to do it before the Euros start. So there should be an announcement very soon on that.
Interesting. And that's Serie B. I can confirm it. Honestly, it's not John just being simple. Trust me, it's not any of us being simple. It is really confusing. So, Soz, we'll try and work it out. We'll let you know who goes up one way or the other. We might tweet it perhaps when it's eventually done.
Yeah, and I know we don't normally do the game for next week, obviously, because there is no next week as such in the leagues. But yeah, the Coppa Italia final is this Saturday at 7:45 kickoff.
Yes, you stole my thunder because I was going to bring them up as a whole. But,
I'm sorry.
But I'll let you off because Drew, you've got the Pokal, which is Dortmund and Bayern. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
That's Saturday, and Tom, you've got the Copa del Rey, which is Sevilla, Barcelona.
Indeed.
Good, and I have got the Coupe de France in France, obviously, which is Marseille and PSG. So there you go. John's thrown a spanner in the works, and he's destroyed the running order. How
we all know that everyone wants to watch Pogba and Dybala play, so it's simple.
Fair enough. We'll let you have away with this one, but only this one. Right, super. Okay, well that wraps up Italy then for another season. And again, we will keep in touch with. Obviously, John, you're going to follow Italy over the Euros, and more on that at the end of this pod today. But plenty will go on, and no doubt plenty of comings and goings as well. So we'll keep you across that over the summer. Right, just one league to go then, and this is the part where I will hand over to you, John, and we'll finish in France. And the relegation battle was fine and fun there as well. So it's this week's Liga.
Yeah, so Liga had quite a bit actually still to sort out. Obviously, we've known for a long time that PSG were champions. I think we knew that before the season started, but there was a lot going on at the bottom and still European spots to sort out. I don't know, do you want to do these games sort of grouped together, Kris? The Lorient and Reims and we all down the bottom.
Yeah, we can plough our way through them as if you like. Should we start with Lorient?
Yeah.
Because that was probably the most clear-cut game of the three. So at the bottom of the league, we knew that one of Toulouse, Reims and Gazélec Ajaccio were going to go. It was 2 from 3. Lorient basically were finishing the season. This is why I didn't do a Mighty 90, because obviously that were my team. They were facing Gazélec Ajaccio, friends of the pods. We love them. But unfortunately, it wasn't good news. Lorient did the job to finish them off. So my team are officially the bad guys of the pod. They got the 1-0 victory over Gazalek. It would be fair to say, actually, that Gazalek had two really good chances. Lorient probably should have been 4 up at this point, but they weren't. And Toshimbu, the striker, and Pujol both had really good chances that Lecomte made two excellent saves from, which the game could have been so different. But Makanju's winner on 27 minutes got the eventual points for Les Mulots, and that relegated Gazalek because they knew that they had to win no matter what. But just to touch on Lorient briefly, their club captain Yann Jouffre has retired. It's the end of an era for Jouffre. He played over 211 games in total for Lorient. He was, of course, the club captain. He was applauded into the stadium, applauded off the pitch. He leaves a real club legend, and it's his final game. So Lorient, just for benefit of tying up the mighty 90, so to speak, they finished in 15th on 46 points. So I think they'll see that as a bit of a not a great season, but nevertheless, safe is good. As for Gazalek, though, as you say, they go down after one season. It's a little bit like Carpi and Frosinone, actually, funnily enough, talking about smaller sides. But they do go after one season. But they had a budget, let's remind ourselves, 13.8 million euros total. So that's for the whole club, the stadium, the pitch, the transfers, the wages, the staff, everything. 13.8 million euros.
You've got that in your back pocket, haven't you? That's nothing.
Oh, down the back of the sofa. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo makes that in image rights alone a year, I would imagine. So, it's an amazing achievement to even be here or be in Liga. But they will return to Liga next season, which is a shame, but it's an amazing achievement nevertheless. Shall we move on to our next game then?
Yeah, so obviously that meant Gazalek were down. Then you had basically the other two teams that could still go, Toulouse. But first we talk about RM, who had a tough-looking game against Lyon, a very informed Lyon.
Yeah, very much so. It's very ironic actually, because Jean-Michel Aulas kind of accused teams of kind of phoning it in towards the end of the season and not bothering to play against some of their rivals, like against Monaco and that. And I think he said Montpellier basically just sort of gave up against Monaco, which is kind of ironic because Lyon were very much, they weren't just on the beach. I mean, they were on the lilos with their feet up, and they went down to a 4-1 win for Ramu. I saw them winning this, if I'm honest, because Lorient obviously naturally they were already up second place. They knew they were there, barring a ridiculous goal swing for Monaco. So they lost 4-1, and at that point, well, certainly at one point during the game, it seemed like Ram were going to do the unbelievable. Issa Mandi, their captain, put them one up on 14 minutes. Diego got the second. Turan scored an absolute worldie. If you haven't seen that, do look it up on 51 minutes. And Kayi with a penalty on 56. 4-0 up. Max Cornet did get one back for Lyon. Not that it mattered at all. So at that point, you thought, okay, Ram are going to do the unbelievable. They're going to stay up. It's all going to be good. It didn't quite end that way, which we'll touch on in a second. But 2 wins in 10 at the end of the season kind of kills their season, really. 57 goals conceded. Only Troyes on 83, which is mental, but obviously we knew they were gone a long time ago. And Gazalek just 1 goal worse off, 58, took on board more goals. So that was their problem. As for Lyon, it's a massive summer. I mean, obviously, getting into the Champions League is crucial in their bid to try and keep some of their players. Jean-Michel Aulas again coming out today with some quotes on Alexandre Lacazette, saying that it would take at least a bid of £50 million for him to even consider it, 50 million euros, because he said that's what a world-class player goes for in this market. He's a very important place here at Lyon. He's paid the most at the club and will continue to look after him. He will stay. We all know that world-class players are worth more than 50 million euros. So Aulas is playing the long game. Does he stick around, Lacazette? Does he not? It's tough. But then you've also got Fekir and probably Gonalon as well. It's going to be difficult to work out who's going to stay, who's going to go. But that will be absolutely key for Lyon if they are going to kick on again next season and indeed challenge PSG. However, as you rightly said, the other game that was key was Toulouse. Now, I was following this live, and you could not tweet fast enough. It was all going off. And I can confirm, Ram are relegated because Toulouse, to quote your running joke, John, they didn't lose. They won incredibly in just the most bizarre and incredible fashion, as they got a 3-2 victory, which they had to do. Basically, they had to win no matter what, away at Angers. Now they were behind. Danny's favourite player, Billy Kekeo from Fone, put them one up on 12 minutes, but Wissam Ben Yedder, crikey, what they do without him. Well, they will have to next year. He got the equaliser. Ben Rama then put Angers again with an absolute worldie to make Angers 2-1 up, and then 2 goals in 2 minutes from Braithwaite, who'd earlier missed a penalty, and then the winning goal from 21-year-old Jan Bodiger, who's really is a real young prospect, and he stood over the free kick and rattled it into the top of the net with just 10 minutes to go. And if you get a chance, do look up the celebrations. All the playing staff, all the substitutes, everyone just races onto the pitch even while the game is still in motion. So that was the winning goal for Toulouse, and they knew that they were safe. It's an incredible achievement, really. Pascal Dupras, their new manager, he came in and saved them. Basically, he came in. He had 5 wins, 3 draws, and only 2 defeats since taking over in March. And when you think about it, coming in March, it's not a lot of time to turn around a side. So his job has just been incredible. Angers, just to touch on them, they finished 9th. It's a pretty impressive season, really, for, again, a small club. We touched on Gazalek's budget. Well, Angers is not much better, only 24 million euros for them. They didn't score many, only 40 goals this season, but they didn't concede many either. That was kind of key for them. They only conceded 38 goals. So that rounds off just an incredible finale to the Liga season as far as the relegation zone goes. Toulouse safe by a point. And as I say, it's a shame we lose Troyes, which we knew. Even more of a shame we lose Gazalek and Ram have gone. And obviously so is their coach. And it's going to be a very long summer for them to rebuild.
Yeah, disappointing. All the teams did exactly what they needed to, other than Gazalek on the day, who probably really had arguably the easier game out of the 3 teams sort of fighting at the bottom. I
can confirm that, yeah.
Not to be too disrespectful to you, Lorient, but well done. They're sad that they're going, but well done to Toulouse pulling it out in the last day of the season. Last game to sort of highlight is the champions, PSG. Nice comfortable win for them on the day.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's quite a few games I could have highlighted, but this one was the one I wanted to pick out, mainly because of sort of all the pomp and circumstance that went after the game. For those people that might have been living under a rock, Zlatan Ibrahimovic basically confirmed this week that he was not going to be staying in Paris, and he will be moving on, which only adds fuel to my fire that I think Ronaldo will end up there next season, but that's another story. And he signed off in style, in record-breaking style, so much like Higuain did for Napoli. Zlatan claims his own little piece in the record books. He leaves Paris with a stand in the stadium named after him, and he breaks Carlos Bianchi's record. He finishes the league season with 38 league goals, which, granted there is the sort of argument of, is it the strongest league, etc., but you can't knock Zlatan just for his goals alone. I mean, he's just been incredible. At PSG alone since 2012, he's notched 113 goals in 122 appearances. It's not bad, to be fair. It's not bad. So yes, he leaves a legend, and there was quite the I don't know if any of you guys have seen the light show that PSG always put on every season, and it's quite the spectacle, fireworks and everything. All the players get introduced, but Zlatan was noticeably quite emotional. If not still Zlatan saying that he arrived as a king, leaves as a legend, and it is Zlatan, but. PSG wrap up the season. Looks like they're going to be saying goodbye to quite a few players as well. Gregory Van der Veer, Nicolas Duche is going to go as well, along with possibly Marquinhos. Looks like he might be ended up to Barcelona. So feels like a bit of an end of an era for this PSG team. It might need it, really, if they're going to kick on the Champions League. They do need to rebuild a bit. But that's the end of PSG, and obviously record-breaking tally as well, 96 points. As for Nantes, they've got a big summer ahead of them as well. Dissakarian, their coach, obviously announced that he was leaving at the end of the season last week. He's going to be replaced by the former Montpellier boss, René Girard, who was the title-winning coach there. So could be all change for Nantes, but they've got a big summer ahead of them because they're going to need to rebuild a squad that's kind of been exactly that, mid-table, really, just sort of floating in and around the mid-table, lower end. So that wraps up the season for the champions.
Yeah, if you just want to run through the other results quickly and the final league standings.
Yes, sure. So Monaco got the points they needed. They needed to beat Montpellier to secure the third qualifying spot. Although, trust me, looking at the teams they could draw, it's not the greatest of spots to be in. Trust me. They finished third behind PSG, obviously champions on 96 points, and Lyon in second on 65 points. St Etienne lost at home to Lille, so Lille go automatically into that Europa League spot. St Etienne will still get in if PSG beat Marseille in the Coupe de France final, but a goal from Eder got the points for Lille. Nice were the other team looking to secure European qualification, and they did. They finished fourth on 63 points with a 3-2 victory away at Guingamp. Player with 2 goals, Seri with another one, and Erdich and Genevois with an own goal for Guingamp there. Troyes signed off their Liga season, and indeed, obviously, they're dipping off to League 2. They were a 1-1 draw with Marseille. Stephen Fletcher getting the goal for Marseille there, equalising a Camus goal. Caen beat Bordeaux 1-0. Andy Delort, favourite of mine, he got the winner from the penalty spot. And finally, Rennes lost at home for the final game of the season for 2 Camano goals for Bastia. Pedro Enrique getting one back for Rennes, but it wasn't enough. So, as I said, PSG champions, Lyon, Monaco Champions League, Nice, Lille into the Europa League. St Etienne will be if PSG win that Coupe de France, and then Cannes, Rennes, Angers and Bastia make up the top 10. Down at the bottom, Troyes, Gazélec, Reims have gone. Toulouse, Guingamp, Lorient just about survive, with Nantes, Marseille, Montpellier and Bordeaux making up the rest of the table.
Lovely. Any news at all, or is that all done for the season?
No, I shall not bore you with anything news. Other than we love Zlatan, and it will be a shame to see him go. But no, the only news really in France is that it's probably going to be a very busy summer as far as French players go, because there's going to be a lot on the move. But no, nothing else.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, so we will move on then. And that's our wrap-ups for the league seasons across our chosen leagues. We're going to go for the next segment that we do is usually the kind of a whip around another league. So we'll just sort of touch on how things are going, which is what we do normally. However, this week I've changed it slightly because it's the last pod of the season. So I shall explain as we go into the best of the rest. Right, so what we're going to do this week is I'm going to go to my fellow panelists and I'm going to ask them from their Mighty 90 teams. They are going to pick a player that has been their favourite player from their Mighty 90 club and just a very brief bit of reasoning as to why. So, Tom, I'll start with you. Who was your favourite player from Red Bull Salzburg this season and why?
It's hard. There's so many players that I like this season. I mean, you first look at Soriano, and then the player of the year that Salzburg chose is Keita. But personally, for me, I really enjoyed watching Valon Berisha play, who was our Norwegian midfielder. He got 5 goals this season in the league, which isn't that great in terms of goal scoring, but for what he's done in terms of the play, Salzburg, if you genuinely go and watch Salzburg play week in, week out, they play some excellent passing football, and Valon Berisha is always at the middle of that, always in for a tackle and doing his job in the dirty side of things on that left-hand side. And I think if it's a shame Norway didn't qualify for the Euros, because I think he would have been in that side quite easily and doing quite well for them. So that's a shame. But no, he's only 23 years old and he's already playing as if he's a much more mature player. So yeah, I'd have to say him because he's been really quite excellent this season.
Goodly. Not the obvious. Could have gone for the obvious. Good, I like
Hipsters for a reason.
Absolutely. I'm intrigued now who Drew's going to go for. In my head, I think I know, but I wonder if I'm right. Who did you go for final, Drew?
Well, as much as I want to say Dirk Kuyt because he scored 19 goals as a 35-year-old, I actually went with Rick Karsdorp.
I was wrong. I picked the wrong one.
Yeah, simply because, played left back the majority of the season. I do believe he featured 28 times from the start. He had 10 assists at right back this season, and to the point where he was brought into the Dutch squad back in March with their friendlies against France and England. I think he's got an excellent future. I think the Netherlands has been lacking quality wing backs at left and right to provide like years past. You had the Boers have done that previously. Even Giovanni Benrahma himself, although he played at left back. So it'll be interesting to track his career and see where he goes. I think he'll stay at Feyenoord another couple of seasons because he's 21, but I do think he'll either make a step up to either PSV or Ajax, or he might even leave, depending. But I think he's got a good future on him.
Fair enough. I thought you were going to go for Tony Villena.
No.
Yeah, that's who I had a feeling, but I was wrong. John, who have you gone for Gladbach? Now, you kind of told us pre-record who you were going to go for, but it was who I expected. So who did you go for?
It's pretty obvious I was going to go for Dahoud. He's just been fantastic this season. Breakout player, really, in a team that has, for the last few years always prided itself on the sort of the youth or the young players it's had in it. He's come in and just been amazing. Just the 5 goals this year, but 8 assists as well. He's created 77 chances. He's played 32 games. His pass success rate is over 80%. He wins tackles. He wins challenges in the air for someone who's not particularly big. He's quite happy to get stuck in. The amount of times he's won the ball back and then made the pass that is the pre-assist, if you like. And it's really impressive for someone who, in that team, you have to be comfortable receiving the ball with 2 or 3 players around you. You've really got to be able to take it under pressure and then move it on quickly. And he's done that. The scary thing for me is whether he'll be there or not next season. I hope we get another season out of him before he moves on to bigger things, because I think he is better than Gladbach. But yeah, he's just been great to watch. But there's been so many good players who played back this year, like Hahn, who had that horrible injury and that really stupid tackle that he received in the season, who's come back and scored goals and been brilliant. Lars Stindl's been great, and I could have picked anyone, but I just think for his age and how much he's imposed himself on a midfield for someone that young, there's not many people who can do it at that kind of age at this level.
Fair enough. Definitely a big talent. We shall see whether he sticks around in Germany another year or moves on. Just leaves me then. I was really torn between 2, actually. A little shout for Didier Ndong, which I know makes Tom laugh every time. But he's been really good for a 21-year-old who nobody really heard of. 34 games, 2 goals. However, I've gone for Rafael Guerreiro, who's I just think is just a really splendid little player. 22 years of age, left full back, left wing back, left midfielder, whichever you decide. He's I wouldn't say he's had a stellar season. That's the weirdest point, but he's just my favourite player, and I just really like him, as well as Benjamin Janot, of course. But no, he's immensely talented. Wand of a left foot, very very good on the set piece. As I said previously, can play anywhere really across the left hand side of the pitch. Gives Lorient a completely different dimension. He's already made his Portuguese national team debut. In fact, scored in his debut. He's had 5 appearances since then, and I have a funny feeling we might be seeing him in the Premier League and in a team that all of us happen to follow. It seems likely, or it certainly is a possibility that he could be on the move. So I think he's really come on. I think he's a really really talented player and a really gifted player. And I hope he gets the move that his career deserves, because at 22, I think he's only going to get better and better as his career progresses. So I've gone for Rafa Guerreiro. So there we go. So that's a little bit of a twist on the sort of end of season best of the rest. But yeah, we thought we'd change it up. Why not? However, what is still in place is our Hipsters Choice. So let's crack on and see who's going in this week. Okay, so this week I've decided to pick a player that could be, or seemingly could be, on his way to the Premier League, and indeed could be on his way to the Premier League from Arsenal, or to Arsenal, I should say. So this week I've gone for John's favourite, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and it's Granit Xhaka. So, what do we know about this gentleman? Well, Granit Xhaka is, of course, his full name. He was born on September the 22nd, 1992, 23 years of age. He is Swiss, and he's 6'3", 180 pounds of pure tank. He is the Borussia Mönchengladbach number 34 midfielder, left-footed, and his current contract with Boots-wise is with Under Armour Clutch Fit 2.0. Sounds like a great name for a boot, doesn't it? He isn't on Twitter, but he is on Instagram. You can stalk him on Instagram. Granit Xhaka, all one word, and we will of course post some clips up of his YouTube stats and skills later on in the week. As far as his league stats go, well, in 2015-16 season, he's made 27 appearances. He scored 3 goals. He's had 5 yellow cards and 3 red cards. We mentioned earlier on about those red cards. He averages 8.1 passes per. 81.1 passes per game. Pass success percentage 84.7%, pretty high. That tackles 2.4 per game and interceptions 2.8. He's been man of the match once. I've reversed that because I wanted to nip into his bio afterwards, which is born in Basel, Swiss international. He's born to Kosovan Albanian parents, and he played within the Basel youth system before being promoted to the first team ahead of the 10-11 season, I should say, in the Swiss Super League. He made his first team debut in the UEFA Champions League qualifying match in July 2010. He actually scored in a 2-0 win over Hungarian side Debrecen. I'm glad that was an easy name to say. His first league goal in a 5-1 victory over FC Thun came on May 15th, 2011. And so impressive was Xhaka, former Basel coach Torsten Fink was quoted as saying, "Xherdan Shaqiri is the best talent in Switzerland." ... after Xhaka. On 18th of May 2012, they announced, Basel this is, on their homepage that he was joining Lucien Favre at the time's Borussia Mönchengladbach side. Transfer fee was not disclosed by Mönchengladbach, but it was estimated to be around about 8.5 million euros. Season Xhaka has been employed primarily inside a midfielder of Gladbach's preferred 4-4-2 formation. He consistently ranks in the top 30 Bundesliga players for tackles, interceptions per game, and that combative style has landed him in disciplinary trouble too, as we touched on earlier, with him leading the league in fouls per game, 2.6 on average per game, and of course leading the stats on red cards, 3 this season. He is a natural leader. He's the captain, obviously, of Borussia Mönchengladbach, or certainly is at the time of recording. He's a good passer with the ability to develop pinpoint diagonal balls with 39 senior caps. He's very experienced for a man of such a young age of 23. He is, however, quite emotional, regularly racks up those disciplinary points with yellow and the aforementioned red cards. His other weaknesses in this game includes pace. He's not the quickest of players and he can struggle to track speedy opponents. And of course his goal scoring record. Xhaka's represented Switzerland at all levels before earning his first senior cap in 2001, debuting at Wembley, ironically, against England in the 2-2 draw in the UEFA Euro 2012 qualification game in June. He scored his first international goal in the same year, a 1-0 victory over Luxembourg in a friendly. And the then coach Ottmar Hitzfeld said of the player, "I see similarities between Granit Xhaka and Bastian Schweinsteiger, whom I promoted to the first team at Bayern Munich when he was 18. He's extremely mature, highly intelligent, reads the game well, and has good technical skills." Xhaka has 39 caps for Switzerland to date and scored 6 goals, and his older brother, I believe it's pronounced Torland, was also brought through the Basel system. He plays for FC Basel and has 10 international caps with Albania. Xhaka has been heavily linked with a summer move to the Premier League and to Arsenal. The midfielder saying that after his last game for Borussia Mönchengladbach, or it may be his last game for Borussia Mönchengladbach at the weekend, and that the decision about his future will be made prior to the Euros. So that's what we know about a player that we could be seeing a bit more of in the Premier League potentially next season. John, I'd be remiss not to start with you, and I'll get Drew's thoughts from a Bundesliga point of view in a second as well. But from your standpoint, he built up quite a partnership with Havard Nordtveit, who is also coming to the Premier League with West Ham, as we know from earlier on in the pod. So if Xhaka was to make the move to English shores, how do you think he would settle in, and what do you make of him as a player, having watched him all season for your beloved Mönchengladbach?
I think he'd be fine in the Premier League, to be honest. Obviously, there's always a period of adjustment whenever you change countries and you change leagues, but I think the Bundesliga, in terms of the pace of it and physicality, is probably closest to the Premier League. Definitely in terms of the speed of it. But the question is how will he get on with his new teammates? How quickly will he bond with them? Get an understanding with them? I don't see there being too many issues if it is Arsenal he ends up at. I know there's other Premier League clubs looking at him as well, but that's obviously all the papers are saying, that it is Arsenal he'll be going to. He's certainly good enough for the league. It's a big loss for Gladbach, obviously, with Norwijk going as well, who started to play more in midfield this season, and the possibility of Dahoud going as well, who'd actually he was also playing alongside Xhaka a lot, and they were really combining quite well. It could be huge loss for the club. Exciting as an Arsenal fan if you got him. Definitely something we need. The extra height is really good, and physicality. The one worry that I would have, as I've had all season as a Gladbach fan, is his temperament, and the fact that he can tend to lose his head quite easily, and just sometimes he will just lash out and make really stupid tackles, and he's done it on more than one occasion, as you said, obviously the 3 red cards. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but if the money they're talking about, sort of 30 odd million plus, that's good money for Gladbach, that they can normally they invest it well, so hopefully we get some more exciting youngsters come in.
Yes, absolutely, and we will of course keep across that when or if it happens. I'm sure we'll have some bits and bobs on our Twitter account. So, Drew, what's your thoughts? Similar question, really. I mean, is he? I know he's a player that you like, but you're not quite as sold on the idea as some people are. For example, having seen quite a lot of him, you do have a few concerns over his game in general, for the price being asked, if indeed that is the price that he goes for.
I don't know if it's necessarily the price that's being asked. I think it's more of I don't know what you're getting with him. I don't want to shamelessly promote, but I did write an extensive blog on this for ABW, and the issue for me is that bar his ability to win headers, which is actually fantastic, and John can speak to that. The issue is that he doesn't bring anything to the side that Arsenal rather doesn't already have. He's not even close to a better playmaker than Cazorla, and he's actually not even as good of a playmaker as Ramsey's, and I wouldn't even consider Ramsey a playmaker, as more of a box-to-box midfielder. He doesn't create nearly enough chances from deeper areas. He doesn't get any assists really. And on the defensive end of things, again, like I said, he's good in the air. He wins close to 4 aerial duels a match per 90 minutes, rather, this season. But he commits nearly 3 fouls a match. He is a walking booking, I think, and like we've discussed before in the Bundesliga, where the fewest cards are produced, both yellow and red, out of any of the 5 major leagues. If you look at his figures, he had 5 yellows, which isn't too bad, but 3 reds. So, but realistically, given the nature of the Bundesliga compared to the Premier League, you'd probably have to almost double those. So you're looking at potentially almost 10 yellows and maybe 5 reds, maybe if not more, if he doesn't adjust quickly to, the officiating differences between Germany and England. And like I said, additionally, I just don't know where he would necessarily fit. Coquelin had a bit of regression this season. I think we can all agree, but still, when he's in tip-top form, you'd have to argue he's one of the best holding players in England. So, and Granit Xhaka actually is more of a box-to-box player than he is actually a holding player. He plays the holding role for Gladbach because they have no one else that can really do it as well as he can. But if you're going to go out and spend this much money, why not go out and spend on a player who can come in and, no questions asked, be the best player at that position? He comes in and, again, he doesn't blow anybody away statistically for the club. I will say, though, that his size and his steal is something that Arsenal has missed. He does control tempo very, very well. He's a very good passer, both short passes, and he can actually ping a very, very good long ball. But I think Gladbach, while they like to possess, they do have a bit of counterattack in them. They'll play that long pass if they see it. Arsenal really don't do that all that often. So then you potentially take that asset out of his arsenal as well. So then what are you left with? So I'm slightly a bit confused as to why we're going after him. But if I had to choose between getting him and getting nobody at all, I would gladly take him. But I just have my concerns, and I'm not really on the whole hype train like others might be. But I could easily be proved wrong. But I guess we'll have to see.
Absolutely, yeah. So the jury is out. And we shall see what happens. And one thing's for sure, if he ends up at Arsenal, I'm sure he'll be one of many players coming from many different leagues across to the Premier League. So over the course of the summer and indeed the Euros, I think we might be sort of like doing almost a Hipsters Choice light over the summer, where we might just sort of touch on some relevant bits and bobs rumour-wise. If a big player does end up in one of our chosen leagues, or indeed the Premier League, I think we'll try and touch on that as we go. So stay tuned. We shall see. Anyway, let's move on then, and we're going to finish where we always do. Of course, it's our final pod of the season, but we're going to finish as usual with the onion bag. Right then, lots of questions. Tom, I'm going to start with you because you've been quiet. Let's see if we can find one for you. Here we go. Here's one for you. Martin Morgan, who's at Welshschooner95. He says, how high do you rate Inigo Martinez at Sociedad? Was rated very highly last summer.
He's a centre-back who's now getting on a bit. I think he's now about 25 years old. When he was a bit young, he was really quite highly rated as one of the up-and-coming centre-backs in not even just Spain, but in European football. He's stagnated a bit. He's still a very good centre-back that I think could play in the Premier League, if that's what he's hinting towards, for a decent-sized club. But he's been consistent this season with Sociedad, and he's a solid guy, tall centre-back, and got a good left foot on him, and I think he's quality. So it's just a shame he doesn't. I still don't think he fulfilled the complete potential that he had, but he's certainly come on and been a solid centre-back in the league.
Interesting. Yes, one I must admit I quite liked the look of a while ago. John, one for you. Enrico Mathis, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, is in Scotland. Yes, he's in Edinburgh. There we go. Lovely job. He wants to know, do you think Handanovic will be at Inter next season?
Tough to say. The list of players that are reportedly leaving Inter is longer than my arm. I almost said something else then, but we'll keep it family friendly.
Can we quote Jimmy quickly on that? Was it Jimmy who quoted you and he sent you a list of Inter fullbacks and said, who needs fullbacks anyway? Because they're shipping out about 100, aren't they?
Yeah, there was. I think the list of fullbacks was something like 7, and it wasn't including the rest of the players. Handanovic has said for a long time that he wants Champions League football, and to be honest, his performances this season, he's deserved it. Unfortunately, the rest of his teammates haven't really helped in that. It's definitely a possibility that he leaves. It would just be depending on what club comes in for him. There's no one really in Italy. Neither Roma nor Napoli particularly need a keeper, unless perhaps Szczesny goes back to Arsenal, doesn't stay at Roma, then possibly Handanovic to Roma is a possibility. So I would assume it would be out of Serie A if he does go. But yeah, he could definitely possibly move on. I would expect that Inter will be one of the busiest clubs. In fact, just the city of Milan will be the busiest transfer centre all summer, because AC and Inter both need some big overhauls of their squads.
Just for a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of overhauls, Drew, Rico also wanted to ask you one. So here you go. This was possibly news broken earlier today, we think. Loris Karius. Will he be a success in the Premier League if the reports are true that he will be joining Liverpool?
Oh, man. I talked to Tom about this earlier, and I talked to our friend Jake as well about it. Personally, I'm slightly confused. I feel like Mainz was the place where he could have developed at the right pace. He's 22 now, which is still very, very young for a keeper. He still has quite a bit to learn. And a club like Mainz won't have, massive expectations. They're happy that they made Europa League, but that wasn't the goal this season. And Schmidt's building something special there. So, and he was always guaranteed to be the starter. So, and when he goes to a club like Liverpool, who under Klopp, they're going to rebuild, but the expectations of the Klopp next season are going to be much, much higher. Liverpool are going to be gunning for 5th place, maybe even a surprise Champions League place, depending on if one or two clubs are guests, So it's a lot of pressure for a 22-year-old keeper to jump from one club with expectations of if they finish in the top half of the table, it's a win, to a club like Liverpool who have such history, tradition, fans who are demanding in their own right. So. And we've seen how they've taken Mooney to the cleaners before from one mistake in one match, let alone a mistake-ridden season. So if he struggles in his first season, that could very well affect his confidence moving forward in his development. So I think he'll be a success if Liverpool fans allow him to be a success. That's how I'll say it.
Yeah, so definitely a tough one, isn't it, as far as that goes? Tom, I'm going to ask you this one. Now, this could be for any of us, but I decided I'm going to pick you out because there's a couple of other ones for Drew and John here. So I'm going to ask you this one from Eric Colton. He's at Arsenal, not Spurs, so no prizes for guessing who he follows. Which player and team have been the biggest surprise to you in Europe this season, positive or negative? So you can either name one in Spain or you can name one in general.
I guess it is going to be Spain. Is it? This is hard.
You could chuck Chelsea in as a negative if you want to.
That was the one. I was thinking of Chelsea and Valencia as two. In terms of negatively, those two have been awful compared to what we know they can be. There's massive reasons with Valencia, which I won't go into, so it's probably less of a surprise, to be honest. Chelsea definitely in terms of surprising negatively. I'll throw in one surprising positively, and that for me has to be Leicester. So you can't go anywhere else. So in Spain, I'd say sort of ego, but yeah.
Would Villarreal be in that as well? I mean, not. I mean, obviously they've been doing well consistently for a while, but they've overperformed to finish fourth. I would suggest.
Yeah, no, they've certainly. I didn't think they'd be in that fourth spot. I thought you'd see someone like Bilbao or maybe even like Malaga or something like that creep in. But unfortunately, Malaga trailed off at the start of the season awfully. But yeah, Villarreal, they're a team that only got 25,000 seat stadium, so they definitely overachieved. But Marcelino's done a great job there and brought in the right players, and he's got lucky with players like Bailey at the centre back coming through and done a great job.
Yeah, even Sociedad have got better as well, haven't they? After what they went through. So.
Ninth.
Season, so. Jesus, yeah. There's a hell of a question, Eric, and trust me, we could have gone to town on that across all the leagues. But in the interest of time, we will just give Tom that one. So another one for you, John. Here, our good friend, Mr. Simon Collings, who's asked two questions. The first of which are, or is, I should say, Matt Zari to Watford, the ex-Inter manager, raging nutcase. Good appointment or not? Do you think?
Walter Mazzari. It's tough to say. His time at Inter wasn't fantastic. It just didn't really work out for him there. Left the club in a bit of a mess. Probably wasn't helped by the board, though, to be fair, either. But equally, he built probably one of the most exciting teams that Serie A has seen in the last couple of years when he was at Napoli, when he had Cavani, Lavezzi and Hamsik. And I know you often like to have a little dig at Cavani and his performances at PSG.
No.
But when he was at Napoli, he was just unstoppable. He was the Higuain of his years there. So he's definitely got ability and talent. And when someone like Antonio Cassano says he's one of the best coaches he's ever had, it's confusing because you think, well, that's a really good endorsement because Cassano's a fantastic player. At the same time, Cassano is known to be a little bit lazy and like to go out and party and drink and smoke and everything else. So is he saying he's a good coach, or is he saying he's a little bit lenient and he lets players get away with things? It's open to interpretation. It would certainly be interesting, especially for any journalist that might be following Watford if he is the appointment, though.
Yeah, I think Simon might well be doing that next season, so it'd be interesting. This is a good one for you, Drew. Quite interesting one actually. This Marcus at Human Pack Animal. Why were fans wearing balaclavas allowed to remonstrate with Stuttgart players? And he puts, why no head cracking?
Well, I'm sorry. So that again, I missed the question.
Why were fans wearing balaclavas allowed to remonstrate with Stuttgart players, and why no head cracking? In other words, why was it not clamped down on?
I don't know. I feel like in Germany, they allow fan self-expression, I suppose, at least way more than other leagues would. You see it in Italy a lot with ultras. But I do think the Italian Football Federation sort of clamps down on it retrospectively after the fact. How many times have we seen closed-door matches with Italy, whether it was the Italian FA wanted it or UEFA wanted it for a Champions League or Europa League match. But I think the Bundesliga thrives on fan support. And the passion of those fans, both positive and negative. I think it's all part of what they're trying to sell, what they're trying to build. So I think, while maybe it should have been clapped down on, I think that's where they're coming from. Whether I agree with it or not, it's another story.
Yeah, it's definitely it's quite a random image to see. I must admit, really, really quite bizarre to see. What can we find? A couple more here, and then we will wrap this up. I got another kind of generic one for you, Tom, just in the absence of Spanish questions. So I'll give you this one. Alexi Otonen at Scruffkin. He says, can you name 3 players from your respective leagues, obviously in your case the Spanish league, that you could see being on? He's put Wenger's shortlist, so I think he might be an Arsenal fan somehow. But just maybe pick out 3 players, maybe 3 players that might go under the radar that you could see in the Premier League. So we'll move it from Arsenal slightly, but 3 players that are a little bit maybe unsurprising that could come in.
Wow, that is a loaded gun. I would say he's already been in the Premier League actually, but Iago Aspas has had an excellent season at Celta Vigo, which is one that you could see someone like Sunderland or one of the lower teams possibly looking at. In terms of other teams, Chop at Malaga has had an excellent season. Can play attacking midfield and striker for them. He's had a good season. You could see him in the Premier League. And the last one, what should I go for? I want to go for someone that's like, you might see a loan for like someone like, even you could say Asensio at Espanyol is not really under the radar. Maybe you could say Thomas Partey at Atletico Madrid. He doesn't get a load of game time because obviously their team is quite stacked for the midfielders and that. But you never know. You could see someone coming in for a loan deal for him in the side. It's very physical, and I think he could play in the Premier League. So yeah, I'll go for him.
Cool. So there's a couple of names to chew down on. I suppose I should do one really, shouldn't I? Another one from Simon here. He said, Jesus wept, weren't the Zlatan celebrations a bit over the top for a man who only played 4 years at the club? It's a good point, Simon, to be fair. I mean, it was quite over the top, but it's what PSG do well. I mean, they had a DJ and they turned all the lights out. They had a strobe light show and they announced all the players and ticker tape and everything. I mean, it is theatre. I think the thing is with Zlatan is that wherever he goes, he has a bit of a travelling circus with him. John, I can't remember how he left Milan or Juve or Inter under similar circumstances, but when he's in your city or your club, you tend to know about it, which usually means that when he moves on, you also tend to know about it. So don't forget, this is the same Zlatan Ibrahimovic that hired out the whole square in Malmo so that he could broadcast the game he was playing against Malmo for in the Champions League. So, he's a larger-than-life character, having a stand named after him. I think the Qatari crew who own PSG said that he essentially, his image alone had put the club on the map in their early days, and they were thankful to him for it. So I guess it's just a way of giving them a little bit of a nudge back. But no, I take your point. It was quite OTT. Not quite as dramatic as the West Ham celebrations leaving the Upton Park ground. However, speaking of West Ham, see how I did that? Seamless. We had a question from Mark.
It's not so seamless when you announce it.
No, it's not, is it? But I like to give myself a pat on the back, even though I'll take it away. Mark, our resident West Ham fan, Drew, he wanted to know what you can tell us, if anything, about Havard Nordtveit. Now, we'll all remember him as an Arsenal player, which a lot of people won't probably remember that he was at Arsenal in his youth. But he's coming to West Ham from Gladbach. He simply says, can you give him some more info, specifically his playing style?
His playing style. Well, I mean, this season I think he featured at center back more than anything. John can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's also capable of playing actually in center midfield, also as a holding player, also as a right-sided defender. So he's versatile, which is important for West Ham because you never gonna know how many players they're going to be able to bring in regards to adding depth as well. He's actually pretty decent at taking a set piece. He's good at blocking the passing lanes as well. He's smart with positioning, but he's not that great in the tackle, and he's not that great in possession either. So I feel like, depending on what Slaven Bilic is going to do next season, it's going to depend on, for Nordtveit, where he's going to feature. Either if Bilic uses him at center back, you can get a very good consummate center back who, won't really have a poor showing. But if you get a midfielder out of him, whether in a holding role or a center role, you might have to worry about the way he is on the ball slightly. But I think they're getting, especially on a free, a very good, very, very good, decent player that I think will help solidify their place in trying to move forward for the club and putting them to a perennial top 7 or 8 finish.
Indeed, and could well come on under Bilic, of course. That's the other way of looking at things. Right, couple more, and that is your lot, because we're going a bit long, seeing as it's the last one of the season. Question from Pete Kennelly, our friend. He's asked me a question, actually. Do you think Lyon could maintain, or could have maintained, a decent title challenge if their late season form was throughout the season? And can you see them challenging next season if they maintain and improve the squad for the coming season? The straight answer to that, Pete, is yes and no. So there's a fence-sitting answer for you. Yes, I think they could maintain a challenge, but unfortunately, PSG are, in my opinion, always going to be that little step further. It's kind of like with Bayern in Germany and with Barca and Real in Spain, although obviously that's a slightly different because you've got Atletico there. But I just think that PSG have just got such spending power, such resources, that Lyon are going to have a Montpellier-esque season to get there. Or PSG are going to have to, maybe if PSG went really deep into the Champions League, you might see Lyon come up on the rails. So if PSG sort of got to the semis next year, for example, and Lyon could stay in the title race. But you've seen it before with Monaco. Monaco had all that money that season. They still couldn't get anywhere near PSG. So it's going to be tough. What I would say, though, is going into next season, if Lyon can keep either of Lacazette or Fekir, they've got a really good chance of really pushing PSG for a longer period of time. And if they sustain that early season form, then there's no reason why they can't. So, good question, that one. Good question. Right, I think we had one more. And then that is your lot. Or do we? No, maybe that's it. I think that's it, actually. I can't make up questions. No, that is it. That is all the questions we've had. So thank you ever so much for everyone that has asked a question, whether it be now or throughout the season. We really appreciate it. It's been really, really cool interacting with some of you. And I can actually give you some breaking news that I've just seen from our Twitter inbox. We followed a chap today called Ali Begg. He's a Scottish senior football producer. He's very passionate about Aberdeen, and he covers a lot of Austrian football. So Tom, you'll like him. And he's going to do an interview with us in the next couple of weeks or so, promoting his book, which he's written, which is all about his love for Aberdeen and Scottish football. So there's a little bit of outside the box from the usual that you've got to look forward to. So we'll probably be recording that, and we'll probably ping it out over the summer. So there's something to look forward to. And also to look forward to, we have a Leicester City special. Myself and Simon Collins sat down and recorded a Leicester special. That will be going out later this week. And Tom, you sat down with Tom again today. The other Tom. Tom and Tim. Tim and Tom. You sat down with Tim Armitage of the Football Radar crew to do a little bit of a chat about the Austrian season. So that was all good today?
Yeah, all went well. Well, I learned a bit. There's stuff about league reformation, which could be huge in Austria in the coming season, so that was very interesting.
Splendid. And a little bit of chat about Euros as well, and what you can expect from Austria. So
yeah, you burst my bubble a bit, but I'm sure you can listen about that.
Soz. that will be good, and it will be. Well, I think we're hoping to release that one next week in the absence of a pod. So look out for that. Myself and Drew are working hard to get a German guest. Myself and John are working hard to get Mina Rizuki.
They have to know
back.
about football, though. They can't just be like German.
Oh no, just a German bloke. Yeah, just generic German man. And I'm also going to sit down with Rich Allen again of the French Foot Weekly pod to go through France. So plenty to look forward to. And finally, we will be doing a post-Champions League pod of some description, where we'll also cover the Europa League final, which is played on Wednesday. Very quickly, Tom, it wouldn't be a pod if I didn't ask you who you think are going to win both finals. Do you think it'll be a Spanish one too?
I really hope so, but Sevilla haven't won away in the league all season, and they're not at home in the final, so I think it's going to be Liverpool, and I think Atletico are going to win.
Interesting. Against the grain, like it. So that's it then. That's it for us. It's been a debut season. 30 pods in, plus all the English breakfast pods. Which, by the way, if you haven't checked out this week's, do give it a listen. Mine and Ross's show is up now. It's been really fun, and we really appreciate our listenership has gone bigger by the week, and we've grown some regular names. We've really enjoyed interacting with you all throughout the season. The final thing to leave you on is we will be back for the Euros. We obviously did our poll last week, which has been decided that you lovely listeners would like daily pods. So basically, any day that there is a game or games on during the Euros, we will be back. We're not sure how many of us or what times or anything really. It's going to be a little bit kind of fly by the seat of the pants, but we'll be back. So keep tuned to our Twitter account. Keep tuned to our individual accounts, and we will be announcing stuff soon. So that's it. I just want to thank my podcasters individually. So thank you to Drew.
Thank you, and no problem.
And thank you to John.
Cheers, Kris.
And thank you to Tom.
No problem.
And as we always say in this parish, keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. We've been Football Hipsters. We will continue to be in your ears all summer, and indeed looking forward to next season. So thank you for joining us. Stay tuned and enjoy your football.
Frapper le corner. Oh, quel geste! Quel geste! L'égalisation de Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Andres Iniesta, se anima Andres. Andres tocó la evolución de Neymar. Messi.
Versucht alles aus sich rauszuholen, verfolgt von Schmelzer. Müller, vorbei an Weidenfeller. Müller, Bayern München ist Pokalsieger.
Che può battere Insigne con il destro a cielo, ad rete, favoloso, si gonfia la rete, favoloso.